People always ask me if it's hard working in a prison. I usually say no. Not because it's easy, it's not. But you get used to things most people wouldn't last a week around. Yelling, isolation, men talking to walls, eyes that never blink when they look at you. You learn how to walk the tiers without showing fear. You learn when to speak and when silence speaks louder. You learn how to stare at a grown man through 2 inches of bulletproof glass and decide if he's telling the truth or buying time. But the one thing no one ever talks about, the thing they don't train you for, is how human it can get. I didn't expect that, and I sure as hell didn't expect him. He arrived on a Tuesday morning, late spring. I remember because it had rained the night before, and the gravel lot was still wet when the transport van rolled in. Name, Evan Ray. Age, 61. Charge, fraud, identity theft, and something involving offshore accounts I didn't understand. White-collar stuff, nothing violent. He didn't look like most new inmates. Older, calm, clean-shaven, eyes like he was used to reading small print. He wore the orange jumpsuit like someone trying it on for a play, not like a man who expected to die in one. I didn't pay him much attention at first, until chess. Our block had a couple tables set up in the common area. Most guys used them for cards, dominoes, the occasional loud argument. But there was one beat-up wooden board, half the squares faded, pieces mismatched, and Evan sat down at it the second day he was allowed out. Didn't speak, just set up the pieces. White on his side, black left open. It was weird. Nobody challenged him. Nobody cared. Until I walked by and, I don't even know why, stopped. "You know how to play?" he asked without looking up. I said yeah, sat down. He beat me in 9 moves. That became a thing. Every shift around the same time, I'd take my break and sit across from him. No betting, no trash talk, just the game. Sometimes we played in silence. Other times he talked, but not about anything personal. Not at first. Mostly about the board, openings, mistakes I didn't know I'd made until it was too late. He never bragged, just observed, noticed. One day I said, "You ever play professionally?" He shook his head. "Just in prison." I laughed. "This your first time?" He moved a bishop and didn't answer. Weeks went by. The games got longer. I got better. Other guards noticed. Some called it weird. One asked if I thought Evan was grooming me or something. I rolled my eyes. He was 61, frail. He moved like he carried regret in his bones. It wasn't about that. He just played chess, and I started needing that hour more than I realized. One night we were mid-game when he asked, "You ever lose someone suddenly?" I nodded. "My brother. Car wreck. He moved a night. Did you tell him everything you needed to?" I shook my head. He didn't ask more, but I thought about that question for days. Then came the first letter. Not to me. Not exactly. It was addressed to the guard who plays chess, folded once, left on the board when I came in for my shift. Inside was a quote. "We cannot change the pieces we are given, but we can choose how to play the game." E.R. No signature, no note, nothing else. Just that. And when I walked into the cell block, his bunk was empty. He'd been transferred. No notice, no warning. He was just gone. I asked around. "Where'd Evan go?" Nobody had an answer. The guy at intake shrugged and said, "Probably moved to minimum security. He had low threat level." The warden's assistant said, "If he was transferred, it's in the system." But when I checked, nothing. No transfer record, no release, no forwarding facility. Just a quiet line in our logbook. Inmate no longer in Block D, scribbled in pen by someone whose name I couldn't make out. That's not how it works. Even white-collar guys don't just disappear. I told myself to let it go. He was an inmate, I was a guard. I wasn't supposed to care. We weren't friends. We didn't even know each other's full names. But then the second letter showed up. Same handwriting, same fold, tucked into my locker, and no one had access to it but me. This one said, "You were the first person who saw me as more than a number. I know I never said thank you. I still won't. But I'll leave you one last opening." Taped to the back was a tiny printed chess puzzle, the kind you see in newspapers. White to move, mate in 3. I stared at it for a long time. Then I solved it. But something about the puzzle felt off, familiar. So I went back through my shift logs, the little notes I kept of our games. Just for fun, I told myself. But maybe I'd been archiving more than just the board. And there it was, the final position from our last game. That's when I knew it had been a goodbye. A quiet one. Intentional. He let me win. I don't even know why that hit me so hard. I spent days thinking about what to do. I didn't know his full name. Ray, yes. First name Evan, but no middle name, no number. So I called in a favor. My cousin works in county parole. She has access to more systems than I do. Told her I was looking for someone who might have been misfiled. She called back the next day. "Evan Ray?" she asked. "Yeah." She was quiet for a second. "Are you sure he was transferred?" "That's what I was told." "Well, there's a problem. He was declared dead 3 weeks ago." I sat in my car for over an hour after that. Dead. I'd played chess with him 4 days before he vanished. She said the death certificate listed natural causes. An old cardiovascular issue, apparently. Said he passed in county hospital, under observation. No visitors, no possessions listed. Which meant he'd left the notes before he died, planned them, timed them. A week later, I received a plain white envelope at home. No return address. No postage. Someone had slid it through my mailbox by hand. Inside was one last letter, written on the back of a folded chessboard. I unfolded the chessboard. On one side, the board itself, printed in faded green and white squares. On the other, his handwriting. Neat. Sharp. If you're reading this, it means I found a way to get this to you before my time ran out. No, I wasn't transferred. No, I didn't escape. I just finally ran out of time, and I didn't want to die in a place that forgot I existed. You were the first person in decades who sat across from me without needing something. Not fear, not control, just presence. You asked once if I'd played professionally. I said no. That was a lie. I played in college, state champion. Walked away from it when I thought money was more important. That's what landed me here. Funny, right? Chess was always my moral compass, and I ignored it, until I couldn't anymore. I don't know your name. You probably don't know mine. But I want you to have this, the board. It's old, but it's seen every game I've played since prison started. I scratched your initials on the inside, not for anyone else, just so the board remembers who saw me last. You played fair. You listened. And when I finally let you win, you noticed. That tells me everything. Take care, and take your time with every move you've got left. ER. I sat there at my kitchen table holding the paper chessboard like it was made of glass. I'd buried guys in this job, watched fights, riots, blood. I'd written more incident reports than I could count. But nothing ever got to me like that damn letter. Next shift, I pulled the old wooden board from the storage room, the one we used. Sure enough, carved underneath, barely visible in the wood grain, RG, played with honor. Those were my initials. I sat at that board for almost an hour that night. Didn't play. Just stared. Then I folded the board, put it in a box, and took it home. It sits on my shelf now, right above my badge. I don't tell people this story at work, not because I'm ashamed, but because most wouldn't get it. How someone you barely knew could teach you something you didn't know you were missing. How a man in orange, with a scar on his hand and 1,000 regrets in his eyes, could leave a mark deeper than most family ever do. That's how this story ended. Not with violence, but with a quiet game and a final move. Have you ever met someone who changed you in silence? Drop your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear it. And if this stayed with you like it did with me, like and subscribe. More real stories, bold, raw, and unapologetically honest, are coming soon.